These are America's cheapest MLS tickets, and we're about to find out exactly what they get you.
With 12 professional sports teams and 11 different sports stadiums, New York City is known as the city of sport. But getting your hands on a ticket can be expensive.
I promised Ryan that whilst we're in New York, we'll go and see live sports. So if these tickets are bad, not only will it be a waste of money, but it will ruin Ryan's holiday. What are you most excited about?
The football.
Will we have an obstructed view? Are MLS games worth going to? But most importantly,
do they eat football pies? Do they drink Bovril? Or is it completely different over here?
Let's find out.
Good morning, New York.
Today is a very exciting day. Me and Jade are going to our first ever MLS game. Let's go and watch some soccer. Are you ready?
Yeah.
We'll go after she's finished. One thing that is going to take some getting used to is calling it soccer and not football. Which do you prefer, soccer or football?
Soccer.
That was Irish.
It's too hard. We're currently in Manhattan and we were about to make our way over to New Jersey to the Red Bull Stadium because that is where New York City are playing today. But more on that later.
So we're going to be looking at things like, is the food the same? Is the atmosphere any better? How much does merch cost in the club store? And everything else in between.
Because once we've done that, we can answer the
biggest question of all.
Will the MLS be better than the Premier League in 5 years' time?
But first of all, we need to get on the subway. And let's explain why we're doing this.
The MLS gets a lot of stick for being a farmers' league, or where great footballers go to retire. But one thing the USA doesn't lack is ambition. Over the next 5 years, I have a strong feeling that this small little league across the pond will transform into a huge force in global football. So before the ticket prices get too crazy, we snapped up 2 exceptionally cheap tickets to see the best football league in the world before it becomes the best football league in the world.
Newark International Airport, Elizabeth Linden Broadway, Metro Park.
You might also be wondering, who are these exceptionally smart individuals? Well, after quitting our 9-to-5 jobs last year to make budget travel videos, we go by the name of Live the Dash. Subscribe and we can live the dash together. Anyway, by this point, we were nearly at the stadium.
20-minute walk from Times Square to Penn Station. Then we got on a New Jersey-bound train from Penn Station. And now we just have a quick 20-minute walk to the Red Bull Stadium. We must be getting close.
We are getting close.
Ah, we're here.
Oh, we're actually.
Ah, cool. We have arrived at the Red Bull Arena. It kind of reminds me of a very small version of the Allianz Arena, which is Bayern Munich's home stadium in Germany.
The game today is between New York City versus Nashville. Big game. Big game. Is it? I don't know.
What's weird about this is that New York City don't actually have a home at the moment. They have plans to build a stadium, but it's not going to be ready until 2027. So at the moment, they're just borrowing other people's stadiums, and that's where they play. Normally, New York City play in the Yankee Stadium, which is a baseball stadium, so it's not designed for soccer at all. Can't believe I just said soccer. I mean football.
I'm trying to figure out who the away fans are. Like, what colour shirt are Nashville wearing?
Yellow, I think.
Yellow. Like the Canaries.
Something that I only found out recently, and is a bit of a misconception I think about the MLS, is that all of the teams and all of the players in the MLS are owned by the league. Even though we think David Beckham owns Inter Miami, individuals own shares in the teams, but they don't actually own any of the teams or any of the players. And what I also found really interesting is that once upon a time, the MLS league used to sign players and then assign them to teams. Imagine if that happened in the UK. We signed Mbappe and then we just chose which team he went and played for. That could happen in the future. Mbappe to Crystal Palace.
After living in dreamland for a few minutes, we almost immediately got brought straight back down to earth, as we quickly realised that soccer in the States is very different from a rainy night in Stoke.
First thing that I would like to do is I want to go and find the club shop, see what's on offer, see what's in there, see how much everything costs. So let's go and check it out.
Do you reckon they've got a club shop there?
Well, in theory, they wouldn't have a club shop here because it's not their stadium, but they might have a pop-up. I'm hoping they do. It would be strange if they didn't.
A few moments later.
There doesn't seem to be a club shop, but maybe that is because this isn't their stadium.
The fact that New York City are playing at the Red Bull Arena is a little bit like Everton playing at Anfield. I don't know, we're in America and the rivalries are slightly different, I suppose, and maybe it doesn't run as deep because these teams haven't been around as long as some of the UK Premier League teams. something to ponder.
The absence of a club shop was annoying because,
I want to see how much a shirt is.
but when we got home and looked them up online, maybe it was a good thing we didn't find one. The inability to buy a shirt and the hideous online prices means New York get a 0 for merch. But there were still 3 categories left for them to bring it back. But unfortunately, things were about to get even worse.
One of the things we're looking at is atmosphere, both inside the stadium and outside of the stadium.
And I don't know if this is normal, but we haven't seen one other fan so far. There were no other fans on the train out of Manhattan into New Jersey, and we've just been walking for about 15 minutes to the stadium and we haven't seen one fan. If we were at home, we would be surrounded by people all walking to the stadium.
Ghost town.
It's a little bit weird. It's an hour before kickoff and this is the crowd. Just me, on my own, about to watch a soccer game. I thought we were heading to the wrong place on the walk here. Maybe, I think inside, I think everyone goes straight in when they get here.
If you hold yourself very still and very quiet, you'll notice something. There is no Stone Island. The atmosphere is quite muted and there is no football chants. That is a real big difference in the atmosphere between the MLS and the Premier League. Not necessarily a bad thing, but definitely very different. The crowd here seems much more family orientated than some of the football matches back home. Right now, build-up wise, atmosphere is scoring very, very low, but I'm keeping an open mind.
I get it. No one likes change. But at this moment, MLS's current status was becoming clearer in my mind. If the Premier League was a Charizard, the MLS was a Charmander. Lots of potential, still looks quite cool, but definitely lacking in certain areas. But of course, the atmosphere outside the stadium was only half the story. I mean, we hadn't even tried a football pie yet, so we decided to head inside, which is where we spotted another difference.
They hold everyone outside the stadium and make them queue up until right before the match, and then everyone goes in. So at the moment, there's just big queues with closed gates.
As we headed inside, we were nervous about being engulfed by the New York City fans' electric energy for the first time. Americans are fanatics for sport. And as we entered the cauldron, we were nervous that their passion for their beloved sports team would spill over and turn ugly. Were we ready for this wild ride? Was Jade going to be safe in amongst this crowd? And most importantly, would there be any football pies left for me to try?
Some initial observations are, obviously the stadium is nearly empty.
Okay, so judging by the attendance, it looks like there might be some pies left over. But before we look at food, what about the stadium itself?
Now it is time to talk about our seats. We are sat on the upper tier today, and because the stadium isn't that busy, we've been able to pick our own seats. So we've gone for 2 aisle seats, plastic chairs, exactly like we'd get back at home, but we have a bird's eye view of the game. I think these are great seats.
We obviously bought the cheapest tickets to this game, but actually, when you're inside, you can pretty much sit wherever you want. And maybe that's because it's a new team, or maybe because they're not in their home stadium. Maybe it's because they don't have a home stadium. So the fans just can't be that loyal, that passionate. Down in this section here is what you would probably call the firm, the singing section, the loud part of the New York City crowd. There's not many of them, but they are loud in spirit and loud in voice, and whenever they score a goal, they're pretty lively.
In this game, it didn't take long for us to experience the mighty roar of the New York City faithful, because just 10 seconds after kickoff, this happened.
New York have just scored within the first 10 seconds. No way! The firm down there are getting pretty lively now. Every time New York score a goal, smoke pops out of these 3 pipes, which is quite cool.
The atmosphere is actually really good, despite it being not empty, but the stadium's definitely not full.
One of the luxuries of not having that many people here is people seem to move around during the game. So if New York City is scoring that way, you sit over there. If New York City is scoring that way, you sit over here. It's a great system. Unfortunately, you won't get that in the Premier League because, well, there's just too many people there. Oh wow, look at this sunset as well. Don't get this in the UK. Oh, mama.
As beautiful as this sunset was, it was back to business. Despite a lack of people in the crowd, the flexibility to move around, the quality of the stadium, and the game of football itself were bumping up the atmosphere levels. So after scoring a respectable 6, it was squeaky bum time in our penultimate category of the day. It was time to find out.
Do you reckon you can get a pie and a bovril at an American football game?
A key part about English football is food, so let's go and see what American football has to offer.
Is there going to be a pie? Is there going to be any bovril? You never know. Let's scout it out. We've got a chicken shop, we've got pizza, we've got spiked hot coffee. That's a new one.
It's all very American, talking hot dogs, nachos, chicken strips, fries, massive drinks, like bigger than the size of my head.
Unfortunately, in American football stadiums, they don't seem to sell pies, but this is what they do sell food-wise. French fries and chicken strippers. This was $12. I'm not complaining, but it isn't traditional football food. We also got something that's even more American than this. Oh, it's naked. We got ourselves a soccer hot dog. This was $8. Now for something that is definitely very different from the UK. Something that's actually illegal in the UK. I don't know which one to go for. Is that too big? Okay, let's go. Back at home, it is illegal to drink alcohol whilst watching live football. We learnt that when we went to stay at the football hotels, but that is not the case in America. You can drink and watch live football. And if you're wondering, this is a twisted iced tea. It doesn't get more American than that.
I can assure you, 7 pints of Stella is my usual go-to tipple, but I have to say, being able to booze in a stadium whilst chomping on chicken strippers is my new favourite pastime. And for that reason, food is scoring a 7. The MLS is having a late charge going into the final category. It's all to play for.
Now, I want to talk to you about the cost.
The ticket prices really vary from the lowest end, which is what we bought, which we'll share with you very soon, right their way up to about $80 for standard tickets. So I emailed New York City before we came to see how much a box would cost, and they got back to me and they told me it was $3,200, which seems crazy and is probably why there aren't many people sat in those boxes. Because when you find out how much we pay for these tickets, it makes that price seem even crazier.
I've never seen football tickets for this cheap before. These seats cost $10 each.
Which leaves us with no choice but to score New York FC with a 10 out of 10 for price, leaving them with a respectable 23 out of 40. But when it comes to the big question, will the MLS be bigger than the Prem in 5 years? Probably not. But the even bigger question is, if you were on holiday in the USA and you bought tickets to this match,
do you think it's worth it? If you like this video, then I know you'll love this one.